welcome to the narrowboat that James built. Hope you guys are very well. Thanks for joining me. Well, I'm not on the narrowboat today, as you can clearly see. There's someone at the yard, there's a boat here at the yard that needs some work doing to it, which I said I'd help out with. It's fiberglassing. It's something that, unfortunately, I know a thing or two about, as I've done it before a few times. I absolutely hate fiberglass. The whole thing about it makes me itchy thinking about having to do this. But they want a shower tray being made. It's a GRP, as you can see on here, and they want a shower tray being made, and it's a small, tricky space. So the way to do it is out of fiberglass. There's no other kind of solution, to be honest. It needs to be water sealed. The only other thing would have been to rip it out, put a new shower tray in, but they'd have lost half the space of the boat. So that's what they've asked me to do, so that's what I will do. Okay, so here's the first coat I've just put on. You'll see I've done the base and up to here in the wet wardrobe, and just let that go off. So there's a few things I need for this installation. Resin. This is just general purpose resin. It's clear. Well, actually it's got a blue tint to it, but it's just general purpose resin. I've got two mixing pots. The reason for that is because I'm only setting a certain amount of resin at a time, and it's got a cure time to it of about 10 minutes in the proportions I'm making. So what that means is when I come to make the second coat, I want it to be quick, and I don't have to be weighing out the second amount of resin. I just want to be going straight in with the hardener and mixing it. So that's why I've got two pots. This here is hardener. This is fast activity hardener. So this is designed for winter applications where it's colder and you need it to cure faster. You can go in with any percentages you like. I'm going to be working on about 2.5% today. So basically for every 100 ml of resin, I'm putting in 2.5 ml of this hardener, and it's impossible to work out 2.5 ml in one of these cups. So this clever thing works out for you, and you basically squeeze it. If you loosen the lid a little bit, you squeeze it, and you'll see there it's starting to fill up, and you get in exactly the amount of required that you need. And then the last thing I need is some matting. So this is just general cut matting. It's glass fibre, obviously. It's very thin. It's completely flexible, so you can roll it up. You can do anything with it. And the idea is it needs to be completely saturated for it to work. So all of those strands, once it's wet, you won't really be able to see. If you can see the individual strands, then it means it really hasn't been saturated enough. So that's the idea. And then a brush. So just a general brush. You want it fairly small because the way you apply this stuff is by dabbing. So a big brush doesn't work. You don't want to paint this on or any kind of traditional movements like that at all. It's all dabbing like this. That's how you do do glass fiber. So those are the bits I need for this particular thing. And now I'm going to mix up the resin and the hardener, mix it really well, and then chuck it down on the floor, and then chuck the matting down on top of it. And then once the matting's down, then I go on with more resin and dab it down with the brush. So that's the idea there, and that will give it a really nice, make sure all the resin's really nicely worked into all of the fabric. Okay, so here's the resin weighed out. So I've got 300 ml of resin, and I'm going in with just under 9 ml of hardener. So it's about 3%. So that is going to go off quite quickly. So I've weighed it out, pour it in, and then mix it really, really thoroughly for about 2 minutes. Right, so I've mixed up the resin and the hardener, and now I need to just coat the area in which I'm going to be working. And this bit here can be painted on. Pour this bit on this last bit here, so it just gets on there quicker. So I need to get this matting down. And then all in here, really want to put loads of it in this edge here, just to really seal that. This matting needs to be absolutely saturated. Okay, so I did it in a really big sheet, which you're really not meant to do, but just because it does make it really quite tricky to work with. But that's the first or the second layer on. You'll see the important thing is just to really slap it in the corners, almost pull it in the corners. This is what I've done. Okay, just finish off here. Make sure all of those little fibres are down. That's great. Looks a little bit untidy, I gave you that, but it's going to have a flow coat put on it still, and that is really going to make this floor impermeable. And once it's gone off a little bit, I'll trim out the hole. Okay, so I've made up my resin and put the catalyst in. 2% this time because it's quite warm. I've got the heater on in here, so I've just put a 2% catalyst in. Put my gloves on because this stuff is horrible. And because this is quite a tricky little surface here, what I've done is I've got loads of matting all cut up into little bits. So first off, I need to get rid of that stick, and in a minute I'll see that gets hot, because when this cures it obviously gets very hot. Now I'm just going to dab all the way around it like you do with all resin. Soak the area, and that obviously makes it nice and easy for the matting to stick to. That's not really going to go there, but I'm just soaking it all anyway because it's all resin and hardener, so it's all good for waterproofing. So for example, the matting is not really going to touch the back here, it's going to come over that lip and straight down to the side there. And then the trick with any of this is to work in a small area at a time. So kind of just soak the area. But you've got to be quite quick because obviously it's resin and it goes off. So I'm going to do the lip first, and then start to bring that down. I don't want it to overlap too much on each piece. And just dab it down a little bit. On the other side. And it will find its kind of natural flow. But obviously the really important part to seal and to get really right is We'll see the inside here where it's coming through. Ouch. And all this crossing over and doubling up of the layers just enhances the coating. Much like the same, it's all got to be drenched. And this is going to have 2 coats of matting as well. So this is just the first coat, just to make sure that it's all in place and intact, and then the second coat will be there to kind of finish it essentially. One more piece there, and dab that in. And the flow coat is going to kind of disguise, if you like, a lot of the bumps that are caused by having, if you like, lumps of resin. But all of that will go when the flow coat goes on. And this shower tray needs to actually have a bit of texture to it. They're going to put a shower mat down. Okay, so that's kind of the first bit. I just need to do a little bit around here. Okay, now I'll start going on with a bit more layering on the top. The reason why you want all these frayed edges is because it helps the matting kind of stick to and blend in to the other bits of matting. It all kind of interlocks, certainly when you drench it. And as much as I say it's horrible to work with, and if you look at it, it really is, it's also an amazing thing to work with because it's so flexible and strong, which is why there are lots of narrow boats with steel hulls, and the top of it is this stuff, fiberglass, and this is exactly how it's done. It's really quite straightforward. To be honest, on a large scale, like actually making a boat is not very easy with fiberglass at all. Doing kind of smallish amounts like this, I find, is absolutely fine, but large areas I do struggle with. Maybe it's the speed of how you've got to work. Oh, this has gone off now, this is going off. It's getting hot in my hand. It's getting really, really hot in my hand. It's getting close to the point where I can't even hold it anymore. this last bit on. Yeah, you can really feel the heat coming off this now. Right, I need to make up another mix really quickly. Okay, get off. And I really am slapping the resin on here. Obviously it works in my favour because I want this seam here to be higher so that the water drains away towards the hole anyway. So I want this area to be tall. Right, and a lot of that, these bits here will come off during the sanding, because I'll sand it back just a little bit before I put the top coat on. I did see a small, oh no, oh shit. Okay, so when you spill resin with hardener in it, you need to clean it immediately. That's the rule. This one here needs a slight repair just here, up on this wall. There's a crack where I had to cut it away with a blade, just a little Stanley knife, but which is a repair that you sometimes have to do. Yeah, there's serious heat coming off this now, which is obviously in the thermal curing process. That's exactly what happens. Okay, so that is the first step done. And the idea of this shower is that there is going to be a door here from the outside, but from the inside, as much as this is lip to stop water obviously flowing out of the door, which would be horrific, so that can't happen, but there will be a shower curtain inside here as well, because it's not going to be water sealed at the sides and at the top. Obviously it is at the bottom, because I can do something about that, but I can't water seal the sides. But that has worked a treat. In an hour that will have gone off fully, and then I can put the top coat on. So this is what it's looking like now. Shed loads of resin. Completely sealed, and when the top coat goes on, another layer of sealing, another layer of waterproofing. Okay, this has had about an hour. That's pretty much rock solid. You can see excuse me, you can see by that little strand there that there's a little bit of flex there still. So it's not completely gone off yet, because when it is, that will be rock solid, brittle as you like. It'll snap straight off, obviously. Same with these ones here. You see there's a bit of movement to them. As soon as that is fully gone off, that will be a shard of glass. But that lip has worked well. It's not the prettiest, but I will fill in some of those areas. The important thing is to get it watertight. Right, so it has now completely dried. This is the lip that I've made. It's very good, happy with that. Looks pretty good from the inside. This bit here is just so smooth. That resin is, that is just so smooth. That bit there, less so. But here, where I kind of pulled it in the corners, that's just amazing. Just feels like marble in there, all of that corner. So now that has dried, I am ready to put on the flow coat. And this will probably take about 2 hours to go off. So I'll get that done down tonight, and then tomorrow morning it will be fine, and then I can put the shower gubbins in. So there's a whale gulper and a few other bits and pieces to go underneath there on the other side. Okay, so the time has come to finish the first part of this job. Now all of that has gone off. And what I need to do is put on the flow coat. So this is basically it's a top coat. There are two types of top coat. There's a gel coat or a flow coat. This is a flow coat and it has no wax in it. Now this had a colouring put in it, had a pigment put in, and I've got to mix this up until you can't see any colouring. And this stuff is really thick and gloopy. That's kind of what it's like at the moment. So I've got to mix this up so you can't see any streaks. Actually, that's mixing up better than I thought. I'm just using one of these tongue depressors, which is fine. I've also got a bigger stick here just in case I needed a bit more purchase or kept snapping these, which I've sometimes done. But this is mixing okay. I've warmed it up slightly. Oh, it's getting a bit gross, this stuff now. I need to get right down to the bottom of that, so I'm going to mix it with something a bit taller. Once it's thoroughly mixed, I now need to measure it out and apply the hardener. Catalyst, which, given the working time at this temperature I'm working, I'm going to probably add it at 2% because I don't want it to go off too quickly. I'm going to probably do it in 2 or 3 coats if I can. Not coats, but 2 or 3 kind of sessions, because this is only a 1 coat product. And if I was to do 2 coats or do it half and half and let it go off and then do the second half, I'd have to sand it back to provide a proper key. So this is going to be a 1 take. Okay, so I've got my hardener ready. So I'm going to decant. There's a kilo in here, so I'll do quarter of a kilo. So that is 2 250 into that, and this is where it's not very precise because this stuff is I'll do 200, that's easier for maths given the fact I've got very little working time. Okay, 200, I need 2%. 2% of 100 is 2. 2% of 200 is 4. Now that's where it's tricky because it measures out 3 nicely but not 4. So if I go in too much, that's going to be too much hardener and that's going to reduce my working time. Now this bit I should be able to mix quite easily. And that'll sit in there all day long, won't do anything. But as soon as you put the hardener in here, now I'm against the clock in this pot here. And at 2%, I've probably got myself about 7 minutes. So I'm going to start in this furthest possible corner. Right, now I can make up the second batch. This is where it gets tricky because you can't see the numbers. So I'll do 300. %2 is 6. Let me just double check that. 1% or 2% of 100 is 2, so 6. 2%. There we go. So it's pretty gloopy, but it's self-leveling. So it finds all the little lowest bits. Whoa. And you see some of those darker shaded areas. That's why it's always nice to have pigment in the resin, because then the 2 coats underneath this would have all been white, and that would have made this a lot brighter. But I couldn't get that at the time. I think the people who own this boat are going to tile that wall behind here. So I'm just going up to a little bit. Obviously I've fiberglassed it all, but I'm just going to do this flow coat just for a little bit of it. You can see there. And it's so good because you can control the thermal exchange on this product. So depending upon the size of the product you're working with, on the project you're working with, or the temperature or conditions you're working within, you can then adjust it accordingly. Starting to get quite, well, I can feel it getting warmer in my hand. It's amazing to think that you are painting on a layer of plastic essentially. There's a little bit over here where I'm going to apply some West System, which is, actually many of you will know, West System is quite commonly used marine grade filler, epoxy resin filler, but you can put, you can control very easily the filler that you put in there, whether it's powder or sand. You can put metal in there, you can do anything, make it magnetic. This goes so much further than resin. I've used 7 litres of resin for this small base, and yeah, this goes a lot further. Which is funny because this is really thick and the resin's quite watery. Oh God, everything's sticking now. This bit's going to be quite important. This is essentially what it's all been about, making sure this is good. Got to keep reminding myself that I'm working against the clock. There's a catalyst in here. And also, I'm not painting. This is self-leveling. You'll see a little bit of there on the matting as I'm talking about. So I'm just going to apply more to that area. I'm not sure what kind of surface the owners of this boat want on the outside, but whatever they do, they're going to have to put some kind of veneer or something on it. And luckily for me today, they confirmed that they are changing the floor, which is good because I've spilt a lot of resin. Get rid of that bit, that's gone. Right, gloves are all stuck. There we go. One shower tray in a wardrobe. And in 2 hours time, I can feel that's already getting warm. So in 2 hours time, that'll be bone dry and rock solid. Happy days. Well, something a little bit different for you there. But if you need to have a fiberglass wardrobe and turn it into a shower, this is how to do it. But you've got to buy the right stuff. And my recommendation is the fiberglass shop in Brentford. And Ben knows absolutely everything there is to know. Well, happy days. Anyway, hope you're all well. Until next time, take care. Bye bye.